Welcome back, everybody. This is part two of the Pride series of my podcast, the Perfect Blend Podcast, featuring my special guest tonight, Brenda V. And we are talking about queer identity and religion tonight, which once again is something that I be shying away from on my show. But Brenda in part one was very, very candid about her experiences and her life that have brought her to this point. And at the end of part one, the question that I posed was, how do you maintain such a strong faith in God? And Brenda stated that that's something that has just always been there, and that she is able to see that humans are humans and God is God. And at the end of the day, while she may have, had her ups and downs with her identity, she still knows God. And that's something that is a very personal, intimate relationship to her. Correct?
Correct.
Yes. So, and just to relate to you, I feel like I have a similar perspective. Like, I feel like, because you mentioned that there were times where you kind of wonder, like, am I sinning? You know what I mean? Like, is this really like a sin? Like, oh my gosh. And there are times where I'm not gonna lie, I probably have had that thought once or twice. But, whenever I think that, I think to myself, okay, well, if God brought me here, why would God make this a part of my journey if this is like a sin of me being a trans woman, or like my whole identity, my whole being? Like, why would God put me in, on this earth? You know what I mean? Because I don't know, my perspective is that in life, everyone has their cross to bear, rather they're queer, rather they're trans, rather they're disabled, rather they're whatever they are. I feel like each human on this planet has something that they have to bear with as they navigate through life. It could be a health issue, it could be anything that is like that one thing about that person, you know? So that's sort of the perspective that I have. What is the difference between, okay, so our next question, what is the difference between being religious and spiritual?
Ooh. Well,
Can I,
see,
can I answer it first?
go for it. Go for it.
I'm a mess because
I
I
want to
actually
hear your take.
I'm a damn host. I'm interrupting you. I apologize. Okay, really quickly. I think religion is like a vehicle. I think in life, some people need religion because they need something to help them curb and guide their moral compass, right? I feel like religion offers a set of standards, rules, regulations, practices, and so forth that keep people in check. Because as humans, I do think that we often succumb to a lot of things that can make us. I don't want to say it's not that we don't have morals, but I think in life, religion is like a checks and balances thing. It just keeps you in check. That's kind of how I look at like religion and all religions. I think it's somewhere that people, it's like a vehicle in a car. It's like religion is like the car, and I think spirituality is like outside of the car. Like spirituality is more omnipresent. It's more encompassing of everything, not just like a religious practice or a book or a set of rules. I feel like spirituality is more of the conversations, the thoughts, the emotions, the feelings, and the processing of spirit, and whatever spirit means in God and so forth. I think spirituality is sort of like it's something that's elusive at times too, meaning that it could be hard to catch for some people. But spirituality, I think, is sort of that thing that helps you feel fulfilled in whatever religious practice that you follow, or if you follow one at all, if that makes sense. That's how I view religion and the difference between religion and spirituality. But
Yeah, that makes sense. For me, I think the big factor, and I really always on this question like to relay back to Jesus's teachings. There's a part, where obviously the Pharisees, they didn't like him, like his own people crucified him, right?
mhm,
And there's a part where he tells them, like, you follow all these laws, all these traditions, but you don't know me. Like, I'm literally in front of you and you're missing uh,
mhm,
who I am. Like, you may follow all these rules, but your heart is away from me. And
mhm,
so, when I think about religion and, spirituality, um, I think to really, live out your faith, whatever that may be to you. For me, it is Christianity, but for
right.
me, it's like they go hand in hand. The only thing is that you can't be too stuck on religion because then you start basing your life off of like laws and traditions and
Mhm,
rules. but then it's like you're just following these things, but you're missing the point of your relationship with God. Where I think on the spiritual side, you're more focused on your relationship with God. You're not so bound by laws and rules. You're now more focusing on having God guide you, like the Holy Spirit guide you, and
Because
for
some Christians don't seem genuine. And I think this is why a lot of people like leave the church, because you'll have Christians who will just have the Bible and they'll have the laws and the, the verses and everything of, they'll have all of that, but they still struggle with their walk with God. And sometimes like with a lot of the actions that they have, it's not
Mhm.
really like godly. When I say actions, I mean like them judging other people or like certain things that they do at home in private, right? While they're outside in the streets, preaching the Bible, and they're at home, paying a prostitute for sex. Or, all types of stuff. That's a mess. I took it somewhere else. But you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I think that's what kind of like makes people like a little turned off.
Yeah, and I think it's because and this is the best way I always put it to people.
Hmm.
Um, the thing is that most of the time, when you like in religion, it's very easy to compare yourself to other people,
Hmm.
even if you may be having your own personal sin or whatever. You
Hmm.
compare yourself to somebody else, and you're like, well, at least I'm not like that person.
Right.
It's minuscule, like
Hmm.
God's not gonna look at me like that. It's like whatever, I can work on it. Or like you don't make it a big deal because it's you. But if you were to really take the word of God and put that as a mirror, ooh, it just starts like showing up a lot of other things. And most of the time people like to think of sin as like things that we see out on the outside,
Hmm.
like drunk people use drugs, whatever, like etc. But people forget that some of the deepest sins really is pride, as in like being looking down on people,
Right.
being greedy, being
Being
power
messy.
driven, and like wanting power, like being hateful,
Hmm.
overlooking your neighbor, like all these other things that people forget. And those are the things that God and Jesus spoke against the most. And throughout the
Hmm.
course of the Bible, people forget that God used the people that, the Jewish people did not want to associate with, the
Right.
people deemed like unholy, the people that were deemed, like, oh, there's no way that God's going to use them.
Right.
We did often, with Jonah, when God tells him to go preach to Nineveh, and he's like, nah, those people, like, they don't want nothing from you, whatever, and he ends up doing it, and the people get saved, right, according to the story. And you never hear of Jonah again because his heart was not like the heart of God. Then you have David, who, literally stole another dude's girl because she looked good, right? Sends him to the front lines, kills them off,
Right.
knocked her up. But the Bible nonetheless still says that he's a man after God's heart. God literally used a prostitute, and out of that lineage of that woman is where Jesus came from.
Hmm.
Ruth, who was a Moabite, and the Moabites could not cohabit with the Jewish folks. Nonetheless, he used Ruth,
Hmm.
right? There's just so many examples. Like even when Jesus was there, the woman that was found, like the Bible doesn't explicitly say it that way, by the way, but like literally we can put two and two together. Like Homegirl
Right.
was the dude, right? When she got pulled out and they wanted to stone her.
Right.
But what does Jesus do? Instead of like condemning her, he starts writing on the ground. And, based on commentary and like different, scriptures, um, you can sense that he was writing the names of the very men that were ready to stone her because they had slept with her. So obviously they're dropping
Hmm.
stones because they're like, oh, and that's why they started hating him, because he's like, you're
Mm.
trying to throw stones, but really, where's your heart at? You know, and the Bible doesn't say if she completely like left her lifestyle or not. Doesn't
Right.
say that Rahab either. Nonetheless, they were still used. You know,
Right.
in the back in the days, eunuchs were very effeminate men and stuff. And when Paul in his ministry and with Philip, after Jesus, right, went up to heaven, one of the first people saved, aside from the thief that was on the cross,
Mm.
a eunuch, that
Mm.
he was like, they had a conversation with Philip, and he told Philip, can I be baptized right here? And Philip's like, all right, cool, let's do it. And it doesn't
Mm.
say if he stopped being so, like, it just says that he started following Jesus. You know what I mean? And I think we
Mm.
like to put God in a box, and we like to put people in a box, and we forget that that's not the way that God works. God doesn't look at people the way we look at people.
Mm.
I mean, growing up, one of the things that my mom told me that really I think saved my heart and not only made me not judge other people, but also gave me the freedom to be is that she was like, you know what, God never fails. People fail, people are human, people are this, but God doesn't fail. And that's what we follow. We don't follow people and we don't look down on people.
Right.
We try to be right with God ourselves. And
I
that really saved a lot, you know? And so when I think about like people, like in church when people sin or like
Well, that's actually the next question.
scandal,
I want to
go
ask
for
you,
it.
how do you deal with backlash for being a queer woman who identifies as Christian and who attends church and so forth? And, I know that you do your weekly Bible study and so forth. Have you dealt with any like criticism or backlash or like judgment from
To be
people in the
honest,
church? How do you deal with
not up front, thankfully. Like I actually have people that tell me like, "Why pray? For your Bible study. I
that?
pray for your friends." They tell me like, "Oh, invite them to church," like stuff
Mm,
like that. But nobody's really. I think what I've seen, like as far as backlash, um, I have had people post certain things, and to be honest, I don't give them the time of day. Like I won't interact with that with stuff that I know just is triggering. But for the most part, what's happened the most is really people unfollowing me or
that's happened
they
to me too.
and
Mhm.
they won't really, which I don't really care to be quite honest.
Yeah,
But for the most part, it's really sparked up like conversations. I've actually had people slide in my DMs and actually try to like genuinely ask,
like really trying to
how do
talk to
you
you.
navigate this and where do you see this? And even if sometimes, they still may view it a certain way, they have enough love and respect for me where they're like, but I see what God's doing. And one of the things that has stuck out to me is how people are like, you seem a lot lighter and a lot happier now. It's
Mm,
authentic and more genuine. And the way I see it is like, there's no way I could be a leader. There's no way I can be doing different things if I'm not even being authentic. We can't be here talking and then not walking.
right.
Like I really prayed about that. And I was like, you know what, God, like if I'm gonna serve you, I want to serve you as me. I want to be
Mhm.
authentic. I know you, you know me. And I can't spend my whole life praying this away. And, for a long time, I really was angry at God because I was
Mm.
like, be this way if you create,
Like,
and I
why would you do this to me?
him
Yeah.
coming to me and just kind of like focus on me
Hmm.
a lot of that away. And he was like, I've used you in the past. Like, what are you doubting? And I think that took a
Mm.
lot of weight off my shoulders. Like, you know what? I'm just going to pursue you. I don't know, like, I can't, you know, say that I want to marry a man or like that I pray to get away because I really don't. I just focus on Jesus. And I'm like, God, you know my desires. I'm just going to rest on that. I'm going to be
You
free.
know, what made it difficult for me, and it took me a long time to realize this, were the people in the church. It was always the fucking people. That's what made it like people getting in the way or trying to dictate my relationship with God or like my interpretation of God or like my interpretation of scripture. And it got so bad to the point where I kept finding myself in these like toxic religious environments where I literally was like, I cannot do this anymore. I don't know what the hell is wrong with these goddamn people. I keep trying, I keep going to all these different places. It's just always something really like dark and it just doesn't feel healthy in those settings. You know what I mean? For me, I can't speak for other people, you
Yeah.
know. So now for me, and I'm still a believer, like I still believe in God, I still pray, I still do all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is my choice, but I've also went on a journey of questioning. I've went on a journey of like, oh my gosh, like, am I even Christian? You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
definitely have had those questions as well. But I realized that it came from a lot of religious trauma, just dealing with people, dealing, like, I remember I would go to those Christian camps and those were terrible experiences for me. I remember this girl tried to fight me back in college, like my early college days. This girl who was in the closet and struggling with her own bisexuality and her potentially actually being a lesbian and not even a bisexual, she would be mad at me because, I was like transitioning and so forth and really finding acceptance in myself and still pursuing my relationship with God. And I think that I triggered her, but it got so bad like literally she attacked me at the camp and we literally almost came to blows and they had to like separate us. So I've had a lot of negative experiences where I realize it's the goddamn people. It's not God, it's the people. It's the humans who are struggling with whatever demons they have going on and they're trying to take it out on each other. And it put me in a place where I literally just had this presence in me where I just was like, okay, well, God is in me. God is here and God is real. And I still believe and I'm able now I'm able to see,
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to separate and see God from people and humans. You know, I just lost a friend. Well, I don't know if we're still friends or not. Let me say I just lost a friend, but you know, and you and I talked about this a few
Yeah.
times, you know, where I had a friend who became a born again Christian and she morphed into this judgmental Christian and she refuses to take accountability for it. She just like refuses to do that. But you know, she morphed into this judgmental Christian. And for her, it's the thing of like, well, I'm a believer, so I'm not wrong. And I'm like, no, you're still wrong. And you need to take accountability for it. You're being a judgmental asshole. You know what I mean? And we're able to decipher
Tell
that.
it like it is.
She just refuses. Maybe it's
Mhm.
oh, let me not be too shady. I'm saying too much. But essentially, you know, that caused us to have this large disconnect in our friendship because she told me that she told me and a few another friend that she thought that we were sinners because we have all participated in premarital sex.
Mhm.
And my response was, I was like, well, you have also participated in premarital sex, girl. You know what I mean? And then
Mhm.
she was just like, you know, my wholeness got deleted. Shout out to Dre and Michelle from Basketball Wives. You know, she was just like, you know, my wholeness got deleted. And I was like, bullshit. And, you know,
Yeah.
not to get too, I'm cussing way too much on her. I'm telling all of my tea. Oh my God. But basically, it caused a really large disconnect in our friendship because
Mhm.
for me, I was just like, oh my God, like you are like a judgy Patty now, girl. And I just can't really get down with that, but I still support you on your new journey with God. I just don't really fuck with you like that. You know what I mean? So like, you know, it is what it is. Like, I guess this is just where we are now. Um, yeah, so for me, that was such a long-winded response, but I don't know. I just feel like it's been a pattern of like people, you know.
And
And
can I
I
say
don't know, it just
something?
put me in a place where I'm like, you know, we all have free will in this life and we all make certain choices and we all have consequences, you know, of said choices, and we all have to still put in the effort to make right choices in our lives and so forth and take accountability and still, you know, come to God and things of that nature.
Yeah, and just to kind of like, I guess sum it up, I
Hmm.
think it really like helped me a lot. One is I decided that I wasn't going to expect people like I think at the end of the day, like I'm like, you know what? I don't expect people to tolerate me or accept me, just respect me. Because at the end of
Hmm.
the day, like I give you that courtesy. I still love you. You have different opinions, but like I think what helped me a lot is that a lot of people that I grew up with and some of my leaders, like, that I came out to, they were like, you know what? I still view you as a woman of God. I know you. I know your heart.
Hmm.
And they're like, I can't understand what your struggle is. I can't really speak to that. I don't know how I feel about it. But what I do know is I love you and I'm
Mm,
gonna support you. And I'm gonna, pray for you. And I'm going to, they're like, I'm not gonna tell you what, like, they're like, we know you know
do you
God.
get offended though when they say pray for you? Do you think they're saying that they're praying for you to not be a queer
I don't,
person? Or are they saying they're
not
just praying for you in
necessarily.
general?
There's some people that you might like. I can sense that,
You could
but
catch that shade, yeah.
yeah, but
Mhm.
with the people, like they were just being genuine. Like, look, I love you, and they're like, and
Mhm.
I've seen God use you, and I don't doubt that God uses you.
Mhm.
And don't let people, push you away. You know who God created you to be. You know how God uses you. Like,
Right.
and nobody can tell you any different. Like as long as they're like, just stay connected to God. People are gonna talk to like, and it doesn't matter what it is too.
Yeah,
Like
people are always
it's
gonna talk. They're gonna
and
find something to
hey,
say.
they're like, they're
Like,
like they're like, the word of God says by their fruits you will know them. They're like, and people like to hide behind whatever they think their sin is or whatever, like they don't want. Like, but I've seen God use, like I know you personally, so
mhm.
I am, just trusting God. They're like, and I'm just gonna love you.
Mm,
Like I can't speak to your journey. Like I can't tell you, like I haven't personally felt God tell me to tell you this and that. Like I'm not gonna be that person. All
mhm.
I'm gonna say is that I love you, and you know, I just want God to keep using you. And they're like, who knows? Maybe God made you queer so that other queer people can get to know God too. Like they're like, I don't know. But they're
Right.
just honest and genuine about that. And you know, I was telling my brother this, like a lot of the older ladies at the church, they've seen me. Like I've grown up in my church. Actually, this year
Mhm.
is gonna be 30 years that I've been in that
Oh,
church.
wow.
I went to that church
Your
when I
whole
was
life.
6. Yeah, practically. So some of these ladies have known me since I was little. Like they've
Mhm.
literally I've grown up before their eyes.
Mhm.
I was telling my brother that. that feminine side that I want to, like, I guess fully be in and be comfortable in. Like, I dress very boyish, but like those
Mhm.
ladies every Sunday without failure, they're like, "You're beautiful," and they just like
Mhm.
tell me all these like sweet little things, and they may not know it, like they just say it, like they and it's genuine, but they don't know that every time they tell me that, they heal that part of me, you know.
Mm.
And so, like, to me, that's
That's
what's
so
helped me in my
beautiful.
church, like having a supportive system regardless, like I can't say that everybody agrees with me, but what I
Mhm.
have seen is that in my church, nobody treats me different. I
That's
still
so
get
good.
served, they still love me the same, they know me, and I think that's what's
Right.
helped them because I've grown up there. And it does break my heart that other people don't have that supportive system. But
Hmm.
for me, like, church has been my second home. Like I said, everything I know about serving, about loving, how I lead, I learned in church, and
Right.
cannot pull away from God, which is like the only real love I've like authentically ever known, regardless of what people try to tell me.
So next question. If someone has left the church due to religious trauma, what advice would you give them really quickly?
Honestly, seek God on your own,
Mm.
because like I said, like I stated it before, like my mom really, really guarded my heart when she said, "Men will fail, God won't."
Mm.
People, like, and I say this because I come from a very traditional upbringing, but
Yeah.
like there's a verse that gets used out of context a lot. It's like, "Oh, do not be a tripping stone for other people to get to know God," but they use that as like, "Do not dance, do not drink, do not hear." Well,
Mm.
to me, what that really means too, if you don't show love and you present like the way that we treat people, if we say we follow Jesus, right, and we're trying to reflect Jesus, but then we treat people disrespectfully and
Mhm.
we're being a part of the bigotry, well, I'm sorry, but like if I didn't know Jesus and that's the Jesus you present to me, honey, like I don't want to know him.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And that is you being a stepping stone from somebody getting to know the genuine love of God because
Mhm.
you decided to reflect something that wasn't Jesus like, if that makes sense.
Oh.
So, I think people just need to really like like how you do it. You pray, right? You connect to God. I think people just need to seek God on their own, and I think little by little, you know, God will show Himself to you, and hopefully also put you in a community where you feel safe, where you feel accepted, and you feel loved, and you
Mm.
can grow in community. And I think that's why I kind of started the Bible study.
Mhm.
I know what it feels like to not feel safe and
Mhm.
to not feel protected. So I bow like when I think about ministry, I was like, I want to be a safe space.
Well, here's the thing too, being a safe space, because I think a lot of queer people or LGBTQ plus people don't feel safe in religious spaces at all. Like for me,
Hmm.
I've never really like felt safe per se. I do think I've had my moments of
Hmm.
like comfort, right? Because I love gospel music. I love the energy of church. I like praise and worship. I like the feeling of, like the feeling and the energy of church.
Hmm.
Um, and I think, that's something that I hold on to. So for example, like occasionally I will still go to church and attend a service here and there because I like that energy, that feeling. It's something that is still very healing, right? So for example, like I might go to a Baptist church in the hood, a Black church, just to pick up on that healing and that energy that I need, despite people or whatever people might say about me, being a trans woman and so forth, or feeling like I'm undeserving of that, because, for example, like my father recently became a deacon, and my father is one of those Christians who's very like my father, his words to me are like, you are a walking sin, you're still a man, why are you doing this? So he's so fixated on, me being a trans woman versus just seeing me as a human, and as a child of God, and also as his child, he just doesn't see that anymore. So, it's experiences like that that kind of showed me, okay, like, look, I got to find God on my own terms. And I also have to let people, like, I can't control what people see in me. Like,
Hmm.
that's not, and I had to really get to a place of like, and this is probably answering the question of like advice to people with religious trauma. I had to get to the place of like, look, I cannot control how people see me. Like they're gonna take that Bible girl, they're gonna do what they're gonna do. And like I critique the Bible. I critique certain things about the Bible. That's why my born again Christian friend got mad at me, child, because I said a few things about the Bible that I feel like are true and that are true, and she got offended by that. And so it's things like that where I just really had to be like, in this lifetime, we all are on our own with that spiritual and that religious journey. And we all have free will as well to make, choices as to how we navigate that or what we do with that. It's all a choice.
Yeah, and I think, in our, Bible study, because, there's people that have been hurt by the church. I want to say
Mhm,
like a good portion of, the people that attend my Bible study are people that grew up in church,
mhm,
but have like a safe space or
mhm,
left church. Some still attend their own churches and they still serve in their own churches.
mhm,
In a safe space like I did. Other people don't have that, so our Bible study is that safe space.
mhm,
Um, but I just think everybody needs to kind of like seek, God on their own because it's very
mhm.
personal. And it's great to be in community. Like I always say, I'm very blessed, that I grew up
It's
in the
just
church that I grew up in.
You are
Uh,
super blessed because it's really sad because I just see so many like LGBTQ people who are just so turned off. But I genuinely think that it's because of the messaging of Christianity and the maybe that and also like what they have seen and what they've dealt with religion. Because there are other religions as well. It's not just Christianity. There's like several other religions, you know what I mean?
yeah,
But
and a lot of them are anti LGBTQ, but I think just in
mm,
general, like what stuck out to me that you said, like they don't see me as human. In
mm,
general, I like conversations. I don't need to be debating. Like I like having dialogue with differing views. I'm a
mhm,
I'm a person that you can think very different from me and stuff like that. But as long as you respect me and you don't like push things down on me, like we're cool, like we can
mhm,
have dialogue. I've had, like I said on my DMs, I've had people that are queer that like wonder, like, this is what, I just had this conversation with a friend, like, this is what spirituality is to me. I've been burned by the church. This is
mhm,
how I feel about it. And they're like, how do you navigate? And just having that kind of like, and I got them to see a different perspective, like, oh, I didn't look at things like that, and
mhm.
I say this line to both sides, both Christians and both queer people. Now, like, what saved me a lot of grief and just in general,
Mm,
and it was something that like I felt God spoke to my heart that really brought a lot of freedom. It humbled me, but it also made me hopeful, and that's that as a person that believes in heaven and hell, is that I'm gonna be surprised at both who made it and who didn't make it into heaven.
mm,
And it's humbling in the sense that it's like, I can't be haughty because God's going to bring whoever he wants up there. But also at the same time, it gives me hope because it's like, okay, then I'm not too far gone, you know?
mhm,
And I think keeping it in that perspective keeps me from judging either side. I'm just like, look, we're all on this path of trying to get to know, God.
mm,
So why am I gonna drag? Like, I'm not gonna drag you down on the process. Like, how can we figure this out together? Like, but I feel like oftentimes people get so caught up into their own beliefs, their own values, their own traditions that they miss the point, you
mm.
know. But yeah.
Well, not only that, I think people get caught up in the reward of the beliefs and the values, right? I think for them it's the thing of like I grew up being taught that if I have certain ideologies or follow this to a T, I will get a reward at the end of my life when I die. I will go to heaven, right? So
Hmm.
it becomes a thing of checks and balances that humans do to each other because it's sort of like who's the most perfect in order to get in the pearly gates. I
Hmm.
think that when we strip everything away, that's literally the argument that a lot of people are contemplating with who are in the church and outside of the church. And then you have people who are outside of the church who's like, look, well, God put me here, honey, and them people ain't right. And look, we here, and I guess I'll just see what that looks like at the end. You have some people who are atheists. You have some people who practice other things that are not Christian at all, and they're happy and they're running. They live a life where they have probably a different God and so forth, or they don't even believe in God at all. They probably believe in nature or something or whatever they believe in.
Hmm.
So, I think that that's also it just I don't know, it just shows that there are like a lot of different people, in this world and on this planet as well. And I think religion kind of brings a large question mark on a lot
Mm.
of things that we deal with in day-to-day life.
See, and this is and one of the questions I get asked a lot, like on the Christian side. It's like, do you believe that there should be a separation of church and state? And my answer is always yes, because when Jesus walked on earth, he didn't come for power. As a matter of fact, that's why the Jewish people pushed him to the side because they were expecting a king to rule right there and then. But
Mhm,
he like, I'm gonna rule through my sacrifice, like like
mhm.
love. And people miss that, and so they're very power driven, and they wanna like you know
People
influence
just want
laws.
power and money and
Yeah, they just want
privilege.
power, and it's like
And
Jesus
Christianity ties into
never,
that too.
Jesus never, never talked about that at all,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know. And so I think that that's why I stick to that. Like Jesus really showed us the humble way. It was completely different, and people missed the point on that. And so
So really quickly, next question. What role does as we wrap up here, because I still want to play the game of this or that, and we have
yeah.
7 minutes left. So
Mhm.
really quickly, what role does your faith play in your advocacy efforts and advocacy work? So give us about like 2 minutes answering that.
Oh, very simple. Like the way I
Oh.
see it, literally, it's gonna sound super cheesy and corny, but in
Mm,
the 90s, there was this, phrase that was coined, what would Jesus do? And I
mhm,
think people don't really, dive deep into that question. And for
mhm.
me, when I think about how I meet people, how I interact with people, I literally ask myself that question, what would
What
Jesus
would
do? And
Jesus
every
do?
time I go back to how Jesus dealt with people, it was always in love. And he would always went to the outcast, to the people, like
Mhm. The people who don't fit in.
anything like that. So that's
Yeah.
how I live my life. And so for me, justice looks like, fighting for the oppressed, advocating for the least of,
Mhm,
because the very word of God says, whatever you did for the least of these, it's like what you did to me. I actually have
mhm,
my favorite shirt says, Jesus is, the kid without lunch money. Jesus is your conservative neighbor. Jesus is, your transgender coworker. Jesus, like it just lists all these
It's so
different things. And it's
beautiful.
the way you treat them is how you think of Jesus. Because we forget that at the end of the day, God created all of us, you
Mhm.
know? And so that's kind of like what I live by. That's how my faith plays into my advocacy. I always think
I
about the least of these.
I love that so much. Any final thoughts that you would like to add before we actually no, let's get into the game of this or that, and then I'll ask you for your final thoughts because we have
Yeah,
6 minutes
for
left. Okay, so really quickly, we're gonna make it a little more fun now. Okay, so we're gonna move on to not saying that our conversation wasn't fun, it was like super
sure.
deep, but yes, a game of this or that. So first, Bad Bunny or Azuna or Ozuna.
Yeah. Bad Bunny has more bobs, so I'll stick with that.
Okay, okay, Bad Bunny. He cute too. Both of them are cute. Okay, Linkin Park or Led Zeppelin.
Ooh, that's a hard one because they're both my favorite bands ever.
You got to choose one.
You know what? I've been thinking about this lately, and I would have to say it's probably Linkin Park, just for the influence they've had in
Mhm.
how I see music and how I view lyric writing.
Yes. Okay. Rosalia or Carol G.
La Bichota, Carol G.
Yes. Okay. 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 Tats or no tats?
Tats. Wait, where is it? Tats. I'm hoping to get a sleeve. So
Yes. Okay. I kind of want to get one on my legs too. I just think they look like the leg sleeves. Is that what it's called? How people get their whole leg done? I think that's so hot.
I think
How
you'll pull it off. I definitely want my left arm in traditional tattoo, so we'll see.
that must be so painful. Oh my God. I want to do that thing that Rihanna did where they beat the tattoo into her hand and into her hand.
Oh, like the Asian style.
Yeah, it's like a Samoan tradition, I think, or yeah,
Mhm.
where they literally have like a piece of they beat it into your hand. It looks so beautiful on her. Okay, next. Converse or Doc Martens.
Chucks. I've had Chucks in every part of my life. I never
And they're
not
comfy.
there. Mm-hmm.
So comfy. Okay. If you had a choice, would you like to would you like to work for a nonprofit organization or for a for-profit company? This
If
or
it was my own, for
mm-hmm,
profit,
mm-hmm.
for sure.
Awesome. Okay. Would you like to have a Canon camera or a Fuji film camera?
You
This or
know,
that.
Both of those are like my favorites, but lately, just because Fujifilm owns the patent on like the film simulations, and you can
Mhm,
actually, like, I from my digital camera, I can make pictures look vintage. I'm
mhm.
gonna have to go with Fujifilm.
Perfect. Last one. Los Angeles, LA or New York?
LA, baby, all day, every day. The
Really?
coast is the best coast,
You
no
said
doubt
LA all
about
day.
it.
Well, thank you so much. Any final words or thoughts as we come to a close here tonight?
Just remember that your own journey is personal.
Mhm,
Let the actions of other people deter you from getting to know God. If that's really what you believe in, and like God created everybody, and I think people get deterred because of what people do, but like
mhm,
if you get to know him, you see that that's not really who he is. And if you want to check us out, we gave my handles,
mhm.
and I have a little Bible study group chat on IG. And if you
Yes,
ever get curious or want to find out a little more, reach out. We're a
yes.
very welcoming group. And yeah,
And Brenda's handle for Instagram is branded by fire. And then Brenda's photography page. Can you let us know what's the handle for your photography
yeah, it's
page?
at bfire86.
So that's at bfire86. The first one is branded by fire. Also follow
All
me
one
at
word.
yes. And also follow me at Kaleef now. That's KALEEFNOW on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. And really quickly before we go, our Yes Queen Awards for the week. My Yes Queen Award, I'm going to give it to Miss Shandy Moore. Shandy is most known for I Am Kate, and she also won a People's Choice Award with Lizzo this year. So shout out to a fellow sister in community. And who knows, Shandy may stop by. Who knows?
Ooh, that'd be nice.
Who do you want to give a Yes Queen Award
My
to?
yes queen is for Senator Caroline Menjivar. She's going to host the San Fernando Valley Pride this weekend, but also she's been a senator that's been very supportive of our policy work at the center, and she
Mhm.
herself has mobilized a lot of good legislation, not only for the community but for women and
Mm.
veterans. So, yes,
And
she's
then
here. Hey, just got elected this year and already slaying. So
that's
that's why
amazing.
I'm a yes queen too.
And you have one more person as well?
I thought I did, but I don't.
No worries, it's totally fine. Well, thank you so much for sharing space and time. We have a minute and 15 seconds here, but it was such a pleasure to have you. And I just want to say thank you for being so candid and open. Like I should have, I usually ask people their boundaries, but you were just so willing to share. So my
Yeah.
hope is that like this episode touches someone. And this was really, really a good conversation. And thank you for sharing a piece, pieces of your life on my platform and just being so open to doing that.
Awesome. Thank you for having me and allowing me to and give me the space too. So it was a
Perfect.
blast.
Thank you. All right, y'all. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Check out the audio version and the video version. We are out. I'm going to call you after this, Brenda, just to get your feedback on this episode. All
For
right.
sure.
Thank y'all. We're out.
Bye.
Bye.